If you've been in real estate for more than a couple of years, you've probably asked yourself the question, how do I retire and take advantage of the business that I've built? It's the universal conundrum we all face. You spend a lot of time building a database, building relationships, selling a lot of homes, and working with a lot of clients. And then at some point, you say, I want to do something else, either move on to another job or another career, or simply step away and enjoy what you've created. In this interview, Ann Buchanan talks about her experiencing managing and navigating what we call the golden handoff, finding a partner who takes over your business and runs it as successfully, sometimes even more successfully than you did. Ann was a coaching client of mine. We had a great relationship. We navigated through the transition. And in this discussion, we talk about how to find a transition partner, the critical role of communication between you and your transition partner and your clients, and the role that personality plays, finding a compatible partner that you can work with and is a natural fit for your clients. I hope you enjoyed this Friday Speaker Series mini course with Ann Buchanan, The Golden Handoff. Ann, how are you?
I'm doing really well.
Good. Tell everybody who's watching this where in the world they can find you. Where are you these days?
Well, I am in Gallatin, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, about 15, 20 miles north of Nashville in
Mhm.
Sumner County. Have been working here, selling here for 20 years now.
That's amazing. And when you're not in Tennessee, where are you?
We are in Kissimmee, Florida. We have a home there, a winter home there, and we go down there about every 6 weeks anyway, just check on things. And my husband has a Florida license there, but it's just for our own purposes. So, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And the reason I wanted to get that in early in the conversation is that we're going to talk today a little bit about the golden handoff, transitioning a business from one person to another. And when you and I were working together, that was a big part of what we were doing, right? Was setting up
Right.
the business so that you could spend more time in Florida. So let's begin there. Just maybe give folks a little bit of a background on your career and when let's start from when you and I started working together, maybe. So what your goal was when we got into partnership.
So I had had MAPS coaches in the past, and for one reason or another, I was not in MAPS coaching at the time. And when I did consider going back into MAPS coaching, I told the lady I was talking to, I said, the reason I would do coaching again, it would be to find someone who could help me with something called the golden handoff. I had read the book. My husband had actually talked to the author, and we were very interested in what, life looks like on the other side of real estate. So I said,
Yep.
if you have a coach who has any knowledge of that whatsoever, that would entice me to get back into coaching. And she told me about you, and here we are.
And here we are. That's
Here
it. And so from the beginning, our purpose, I mean, a big chunk of what we're trying to do was make sure that the business was in a position, we're building something that could be sold. We didn't quite know exactly what that was going to look like, whether that was internal or external or whatnot, but building something that
Mhm.
could be transitioned. Yeah. So, okay, a lot of folks are going to have that as a goal, but not quite know where to begin. When you were thinking about making a handoff, how
Mhm.
did you start? How did you find the person you wanted to hand off to?
Right. So with your help and prodding, I don't know if that's a good word, but anyway, and looking for that person, we talked about it could be someone I'd done transactions with before, someone I'd been in business with before, someone I admired, someone who ran their business like I did. And so I started there, scratching my head about who would that be? So I started there and had someone in mind, had actually talked to someone. And, you and I also had talked about whether it could look like somebody who was already on my team. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. The first person I was considering and talking to, it didn't just not work out, it just didn't pan out.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm glad we talked about our Florida home. We had tested the waters of, buying a home in Florida, being down there for a couple of months, seeing what that would look like and feel like. And then on the way back, last February, I think it was, we we were just talking. My husband and I talking in the car on the way back, and I had an epiphany. I guess that's what the word is. I'm like, what about the Burnett team? So he said, call her now. So that's how it really happened. I called her, and then here we are.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, it's one of the things I always like to point out when folks are considering the golden handoff or any sort of business transition is that we can fall into a trap of assuming we know
Mhm.
who that final partner is. And I admired your flexibility and your nimbleness around the pivots that we had to make because there were a number of maybe this person, let's have these conversations, nurture the relationship to discover
Mhm.
whatever reason, it's not
Mhm.
the right time, it's not the right fit. Okay, go to the
Right.
next. And in
Mm.
your case, it was really kind of the third
Yeah. Yeah.
third
And
major person.
you'll remember too that we also talked about me just pulling out of production and letting my team, take off. And, as much as we hoped that that could happen, that just wasn't the right plan either. So
Yeah,
the right plan came together, and
yeah,
I'm so glad that it did the way it did.
that
Yeah.
it did. Yeah, in your case, right, you had built a business centered around your unique relationship with your people.
Mhm.
You were the heart of your business,
Yeah.
and that made it important, valuable to find somebody who could take that over rather than couldn't just pull you out and have it function the
Mhm.
same way.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect, perfect. So what did you get ready for that handoff? How did you prepare for that kind of transition?
In preparing, gosh, it was over a year. The preparation was really devouring that book, the Golden Handoff book, and looking in detail how to go about it. And so, in preparing, I would say one of the biggest pieces or the biggest key was after finding the right partner to the communication.
Yeah,
Communication with my communication with my clients and past clients, and then her communication with them as well was crucial.
yeah,
And I felt like that went really well.
mhm,
Once we put more time than I ever expected that she
yeah,
would have to take to communicate, make phone calls. She would do follow up phone calls if she didn't get in touch with people.
yeah,
And, my communication was, look, here's what I'm planning for the future, for the very near future. And
mhm,
I want to introduce you to somebody that you can trust to take excellent care of you. And I trust them, you can. So we did the communication piece in email and in, phone calls. Some people text. And then we planned a big party. And that
perfect.
was
And how long did that transition before we got to the party? How long did that take you? 8 months.
8 months. So I made the call to the Burnett team in February. And
Mhm.
by October, we had the party.
So for that whole time, when you say she was making calls and going above and beyond, that was to whom? Who would your clients, your
Mhm.
people? Yeah,
Mhm. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yep. And we started with my top 10, grew to top 30, grew to top 50. But eventually she really did make contact with, and don't ask, I know you're going to ask me how many people in my database.
I'm a
Now, it was a
database
lot.
guy, and that gotta ask.
It was a lot. So,
Yeah, that's the second point, right? Number one, you might not find the right person on the first go around. The second thing is if you're gonna transition a personally based business, as in a business that's based around the person, that you
mhm,
gotta let that other person in. And you as hiring agent, using the language of the golden handoff, the retiring agent and the acquiring agent, you gotta be together because it is like passing a baton in that sprint. You got 10 yards where you're both running together.
right?
There's a moment when you're running apart, you're both running together, and then at some point they've taken over. You got to get the handoff
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And that means being together. That means being together. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, and let's be clear, the partner you found wasn't at your brokerage.
Oh, that's right. She was until she wasn't.
That's just
And
yeah,
she
correct.
another brokerage, but, I mean, that's really turned out really good. For a minute, I thought, "Is this the right thing to do?" But within a blink of an eye, I knew it was the right thing to do,
It
and
was
it
the
is
right person.
was the right person. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Mhm. And
So it
there's
didn't matter
been
where they were.
no conflict whatsoever with us being at different brokers. I think it's been a benefit.
Got it. Interesting. Interesting. Very cool. All right. What came up that you didn't expect? What unexpected either challenges or opportunities did you discover in that transition, that 8 months?
Just, a couple of things. I had only a couple, honestly,
Oh,
very, very little. In the beginning, she and I would go on listing appointments together. We would do the co-listing. A couple of times we literally just did it just like co-listing agent. And so that worked out good. I had in my written agreement that, I had a few people, just a few, that I had already made a commitment to list their home at the beginning of this year and that I would do that on my own. And so one of the little, I won't call it a hiccup, it was just a little issue that during the time that was happening, one was a $3 million listing. And I actually introduced Marty to
mhm,
the seller, but
mhm.
it turned out that it was just a relationship that I just valued and had worked with. And again, we'd been working for a year to get this thing going. So I kept that listing to myself. And then in the process of that, introduced Marty to actually one of my past clients reached out to Marty to list their home and buy another home. And
Mhm.
she thought with them seeing me listing this $3 million property that it was going to look like, of course, I want to do a $3 million listing and not their
Not their own.
$600,000 listing. She goes,
Yeah.
I just think maybe we should do this differently. I said, I hear what you're saying. Let me do this. I called my client that she was working with and I just totally explained it to her. This is a commitment. You're going to see this listing pop up. I didn't mention the price. I said, this is something I made a commitment to over a year ago.
Got it.
And you guys listing your home. Actually, they started the process of listing their home while I was in Florida. So I
Yeah.
wasn't here to be able to do any of that. And they were cool with it. They were great with it. Marty just wondered if it was going to look odd, but
Yeah.
then it really didn't turn out to be an issue at all. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Communication being the key, right? If
Right.
both
Yes.
you had confident find the person,
Right.
take the time, and then keep the line of communication open to handle the challenges. You mentioned very briefly, we just followed the plan. Describe for those who might not have gone through a transition like this one, what your plan, what was the written part of this transition? What did that look like?
I really haven't thought through that.
Yeah.
A golden handoff really spells it out.
Yeah.
Uh,
But you had gone through the process with written
yes.
out a contract.
Yeah.
Here's what it includes. Here's
Yes.
what it doesn't. Yeah.
And it's a minimal contract, really.
Yeah.
And then separately, you might have to help me with what the separate document was called, where we just really did spelled out more details
Yeah.
of how some things would play out if they
Mhm.
came about. I don't
Yeah.
know what the document was, but the contract itself was it was a one pager, I think.
One page and
Um,
pretty simple,
very,
but it laid yeah, kinda laid out, if I recall, it kinda laid out the time frame, laid out the expectations of each, but then we spelled out,
mhm,
here's what we're gonna do when, here's the
mhm.
marketing, here are the I also remember a discussion, and this is sometimes something that folks forget, whether we're including any stuff, like real estate businesses acquire stuff, and so it's
That's
like,
right.
just don't forget the signs and the lock boxes and a
Yeah.
lot of it is blue sky and database and relationship, but there's also,
So
what stuff are we
in the process of making the transition, our market center here actually didn't close, but changed offices. So
okay,
I had this amazing office. I loved my office for a number of years
yeah,
and I had to get all that stuff out of there. And so, yes, I sold some of that and we spelled all that out in that separate document that they would buy it at market value. And honestly, it was much less than that, but I still have sign hanging up in my garage. I need to get to her But right now, I only have one lockbox hanging in my garage, and
There
she
we
had
go.
all the rest. And some
Yeah.
things I did just give.
Yeah.
There were
Yeah.
things that I didn't think I needed to be paid for, things that would
Yeah.
help them. And
Help the
but yeah, we
business.
had to. That was just
Yeah.
the little, little pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah. And I like the way you just said that because I think a lot of times when I have conversations with folks about doing some sort of transition or some sort of handoff, it's easy to dive right into logos and marketing and commission splits and all of that, those kinds of conversations. And while they're important,
Mhm.
they come after the right person.
Oh, yes, that's true. Very true.
Like, focus first on finding the right partner
Mhm.
because you need to have the conversation with the partner about what each person or business is bringing to the table
Mhm.
first and the stuff and what the stuff costs and the database and the referral commissions. That will all work itself out, I promise. It never works itself out if you start with the wrong person.
Well, absolutely. I would agree. I would have to agree that that would be true. One thing that I have to say about Marty and the Burnett group, they have a team, and I just love every person that's a piece of that. They're so honoring, all of them,
Mm,
all of them. It's always been, and what do you want this to look like? We just want this to be what you want it to be. So the commission splits, and when you have the right person, somebody who honors the retiring agent, I don't still
mhm.
love that word, but
The Florida agent, whatever we call you, I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
no, I don't know what
Yeah,
I call myself.
yeah.
But that all those things do work out if you have the right person, someone who's willing to honor the relationship and honor what's right.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
that's so true. Anything you would do differently? Is there anything you would do differently if you were to give advice to somebody who's looking at it, look at doing a transition?
I did think about that. I can't think of really anything that I would do differently. It's just been better than I could have ever imagined, even down to the small details. And one thing I love right now, currently, is that I'm still going on listing appointments.
Yeah,
I mean, people call me out of the blue, not past clients, but out of
yeah.
the blue, they'll call me a neighbor, somebody I didn't even know. And we're taking another $1.2 million listing. We just took it
Oh
yesterday,
gosh.
and she takes the lead, but I get to go on the appointments, which I still like. You
Yeah,
know, I've got
yeah.
time to do that while I'm here, but when I'm in Florida, I won't be able to. No, we didn't spell all that out at the beginning, but again, she's so honoring. Yes, I set up the listing appointment, makes the initial contact, and then we go together, and it's just really worked out well.
I love that.
I don't know.
Every transition can, I mean, every transition will be different
Mhm.
based on the needs and desires of each person
Right,
in the handoff,
right.
right?
Yeah,
And the more clear you are about what you want to do and what you don't want to do, the easier it is to find
yeah.
the the opposite. And if you have opportunities, then good communication is key.
One thing I've been surprised about, I have really no feeling, but I have been surprised that of all the people that know that I've done this, and I talk about it a lot, because how happy I am about it and how it's worked out. You are the one and only person that's asked how it's going. So this
Oh,
is, and I really appreciated when you reached out
yeah.
and, you know, get this, I capped in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. During this retirement, this transition period, I capped
Come
in three
on.
weeks. Yeah,
Come on.
that was name. And I was the top producing single listing agent that month. It was
Of
that
course you.
our listing.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
Yeah. No, that was fun.
Yeah. That is awesome. That reinforces the point that
Mhm.
if you find, if you find the right person, if you find the right tools, if you have a good system, you can build whatever business machine you want to build. In this case, we wanted to build something that created flexibility and took you
Mhm.
out of the immediate, like, out of the frying pan all the time and lo and behold, you're still crushing it as a realtor. I'm not at all surprised.
Yes,
That's
I
awesome.
still enjoy it.
Good, good, good. And thank you so much for taking the time. Anything else you want to add? Any other advice,
Mm.
suggestions, anything?
Thanks to you, I would
Well,
not be sitting here,
that's not
in my home on a Friday afternoon in my sun shirt, just waiting for my grandkids to come over. And
Oh, perfect.
really, Maury, my husband and I both really appreciate all that you have
Well,
done
thank you. My
in
pleasure.
helping us get to where we are. So thank you.
That's very kind of you to say, and the pleasure was entirely mine, and I wish you and Maury the best. I'm gonna keep looking for you on the pickleball court and celebrate your success from a distance in this new phase. So,
Sounds good.
perfect.
Thanks, Philip. Good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Ed. Take care. Good to see
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.